This is Bob Sealish, and on behalf of the Manistee Area Tea Party, I want to welcome all of you. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, short prayer. May God, who grants saving power to earthly rulers and whose sovereignty is eternal sovereignty, bless and protect our country. Bestow wisdom on its leaders and grant understanding to its inhabitants to establish peace and freedom in our country. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we're going to have Mr. Berg from the NRA be our primary speaker. A couple of things going forward. It's nice to see everybody without masks, and it's nice to be here. We are going to go back, hopefully, and just meet the third Thursday of the month for the rest of the year, like we always have, so that's the plan. Next month, I haven't quite got a confirmation. I'm still working on a speaker for next month, but I got a call in to our sheriff to come again and speak at our joint picnic that we're going to have in July. So I anticipate he'll be coming again. He was there, our speaker last year, Sheriff Gutowski. So those will be the next two meetings. And we'll go from there to topics. If you have any topics or suggestions, let us know. And we'll try and work on those the rest of the year. With that, I will introduce our good friend Greg Berg for a presentation tonight.
I'd rather talk, and something that we all know about, because the government's working hard right now to help us out and control us with it. And why do we need more gun control? Be the first question. There's only 20,000 plus gun laws in America, and we need more. And what we really need is we need someone to use those laws as they're designed to be used. The politicians think that the criminals are going to follow the law, and reasonably intelligent people like ourselves kind of think, let's see, if you're a criminal, you don't follow the law, and that helps to straighten them out a little bit. One of the things you need to ask yourself whenever you read a new gun law is, how is this going to affect the criminals? And generally the answer is real easy. It doesn't. No problem for them. The problem is for you, the honest person. You have to follow it. And so many of them, well, the solution is just get rid of all the guns. And that's been tried. When the Nazis went into France, they had a list of, remember, they had gun registration in France. They had a list of all the people that had guns. And they went around and they collected all the guns. And if you didn't turn yours in, there was a fairly severe punishment, death, depending on the person. Maybe it is a punishment, maybe it isn't, I guess. And they found out that 70% of the people in France with a death threat didn't turn in their guns. And so here in America, what do you think the chances are of getting all the guns? Kind of low. And most people that do a lot of shooting say they'll get a gun of mine, but they won't get them all. Or they come up with these other clever things. I'll give them my guns one bullet at a time. And that really is a line of Bologna. Because if someone pulls up in your lawn and they have machine guns and several people pointing them in your direction, you probably are not going to take a shot at it. So just how do these things go? So the gun laws basically are to hinder us. If you look at the origins of gun control, it started in 1689 in England under the English Bill of Rights. They said the common people have the right to arm themselves for their self-defense. And then a few years go by, and it's in the 1770s, and in the United States, in the colony of New York, General Gage said, there's a problem here. Too many people with guns. We need to get those guns away from them. And so we want to leave. And just like today, a lot of people leaving New York. And you want to leave? Bring your guns into me, and I'll give you a pass. And people brought their guns in, and they went, my pass? He didn't give them one. And they were shocked. And in effect, he said, well, what are you going to do about it? Shoot me? So General Gage didn't work out. Next thing, things got worse. They kept trying to get the guns and such. And then there was this funny little thing that happened in April the 18th in 1775, I believe it was. A group of British troops were innocently walking down the road going to Concord and then on to Lexington with the idea that they were going to clean up a mess that was up there. And the mess was the colonists, at that time, you didn't store your black powder in your house if you liked your house. They stored it in these special storehouses. And again, other things that you didn't want to have a cannon in your house. They take up a lot of room, may piddle on the floors, I don't know. But the British were going out to collect that. And at Concord, they ran into a group of American soldiers that said, where are you going? They talked back and forth for a little bit. And then a shot rang out. And the British returned the compliment. Who shot the first shot? British? Americans? They think the best idea is in a tavern nearby. They think someone may have, well, if you guys are going to fight, let's get going on it. Bam! And who shot first? It definitely was not our troops, if you get down to it, because they were much better shots than the average British soldier. But we had 8 American patriots that ended up on the ground. And then the Americans fired on the British, and it is known that the Americans fired a ragged volley and then took off. But on the way home, the British troops had a lot of problems, showing what armed citizens can do. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh yeah, good stuff there. See, it's not mine. Starting in the 1800s, we had gun control, but it was not gun control for everyone. Gun control was set up so that who is it that's causing a problem? Oh, those pesky Indians. No guns for Indians. Take them away. And the Indians were not appreciative. But you may have heard of Wounded Knee. At Wounded Knee, the Great White Father says, if you turn in all your guns, I'll take care of you. And the Indians turned in almost all their guns. And then, for reasons that are sort of in the fog of history, the troops started firing on the Indians, and 352 Indians, I believe is the number, died. So they took good care of them. And if you say it can't happen here, it has happened. That was government troops. What happened to the leaders of those troops? They got promotions. So that's a long time ago. Couldn't happen today. Maybe. Some of the other things that happened then, we had the Nazis. Again, good old Hitler, he told the Jewish people, Trust me. Give me your guns and I'll take care of you. And the Jewish people gave him their guns, and he took care of them. And how many million survived that? All through history, dictators, one of the first things they want to do is they want to disarm the people. Pol Pot in a little country in Southeast Asia. You may have seen the movie The Killing Fields. When he came into power, disarmed the people, and then I'm only going to put this group of people that were politicians and generals to death. Well, along with their families and close relatives. Well, now that they're oh, that was the generals. By the way, these colonels, they're bad folks too. And these majors, and on down the ranks, until we're down to just the common soldiers. But you were fighting on the wrong side. Gun control, they took care of them. Our laws are supposed to control crime, but again, criminals don't obey them. So what is the reason for this, you know? Why do we want more gun control? Is it to control the criminals, or is it coming after us? And you can figure that one out on your own. Criminals don't have a problem. If they need guns, and they know you have them, they may come to visit you when you're not home. Oh darn, and they'll take whatever they can find. Criminals don't know about the black market. Hey, it's illegal to sell a lot of drugs, but we have people, they're called criminals, that sell them here and there. There's also criminals that sell guns. But if we could get rid of all the guns, we've already outlawed that dope, so we don't have a dope problem in America. The criminals somehow get the dope into America. Would it be difficult to bring in guns? Quite a poser on that. Criminals in the gangs, where do they get the weapons that they use? They don't run down to Walmart. They can get them imported by the criminal gangs in other countries. You can get machine guns, but machine guns aren't legal. Why would that bother someone in the gangs or a criminal? It doesn't really bother them. They use straw buyers. And a straw buyer, if you haven't heard that term, is I say, well, I can't get a gun, so I'll hire you. I'll give you some money. You go in, buy the gun, and bring it to me. And people do that. But it's against the law. Well, here in America, if you don't get caught, you're okay. And a lot of the straw buyers don't get caught. What happens? If I was the straw buyer and I've given you the gun, you get caught, I got it from him. Someone stole my gun. How are you going to prove what happened on this? Mentioned that part. Gun laws are not very well enforced. How many of you have heard, blah, blah, a convicted felon who's out after 14 times here, had a gun and ammunition. Wait, he can't have a gun and ammunition. It's illegal. Got him. So, still happens. But if you were, well, just like Mr. Trump right now, you may have heard the state of Illinois is thoughtfully looking into everything that, since before he was born. Did the parents of Trump pay the obstetrician? That's something to look into. Somehow it's Trump's fault. And such here. The Democrat leaders of America are looking to disarm us. There's no question about that. Biden has said it. He's got his hey boy Beto O'Rourke, who is going to come collect the guns from your house. And I hate to say it, but I like the idea of, come on, Beto, come right on up to the door here. I have a little friend that wants to see you. Yeah, it's my grandson. Oh, no.
Smith and Wesson.
Smith and Mr. Wesson, Colonel Cole, a lot of people that probably greet him. Of course, the thing is, he's not going to do it. There will be some little crew. I would guess it would work like this. When they come, you'll have two young men, probably in some sort of uniform. They'll say, yeah, we're here to collect the guns that we know you have. Because right now, in this state, if you buy a gun, especially pistols, it's reported. But wait, those are destroyed. Are they? You may have heard just in the last week, they had someone that was shot, and it came up, this gun was owned by that person. How the person that did the shooting got it, we don't know. Wait, if they don't have a record, how did they know who the first person was? Just lucky guess, I suppose. Just like they do not listen to your phone calls. Remember those two young guys that set off the bombs in the Boston Marathon? They don't listen to it, but how did they know everything that they'd said in the preceding weeks before it happened? Here's what they were saying. They were planning. We've got it. But that means you were recording them. But you didn't know that they were bad people. Oh, well, minor stuff. Why do I pick on the poor Democrats? Well, in 1930, when the first Democrat-controlled things carried, we had the first Federal Firearms Act. That was done under, never called him by his full name, just called him FDR. In the 1960s, there was a chap by the name of Lyndon Baines Johnson, and he did the 1968 Federal Firearms Act, which reduced our rights some. It keeps going like that. Now let's bring it up to the present. There's a guy that's in political office by the name of Biden, and someone in his organization is starting a little movement. Biden, I don't think, has much to do with it, but he said they want to make it hard for people to get guns. In fact, impossible. And get rid of ammunition too, because no guns, no ammo. Don't need them. And parts for those guns to repair. Now you don't need that stuff. Get rid of it. They wanted to outlaw certain parts of a weapon. If you've got a gun, I have a shotgun at home that I took off. It was originally made by the manufacturer to be one of those neat ones that you see on TV where you've got a pistol grip on it and you boom, 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 you know. Well, I tried it, I didn't like it. So I took off the pistol grip and I put on the illegal pistol grip. I took that off, threw it in a drawer, and I put on a Blackhawk stock. So now I've got a longer gun that I can aim and shoot better. Oh wait, that stock collapses. Oh dear God, that makes it so deadly. And so under these new laws, that'll be an illegal one. And it also has, it just makes me shiver, a pistol grip on it. So I've got strike 1, collapsible stock. Strike 2, pistol grip. Strike 3, it holds 6 rounds. Oh dear God, the humanity of it. I don't know what they'll do. They'll probably come after it. Magazines. You have a magazine for your gun? Well, you have to get a standard magazine that holds 10 rounds. Well, I have a little Ruger LCP pistol that has a 6-round magazine. Where can I get the 10-round one to put in? Otherwise, obviously it'd be a problem. But they want to cut it down so that the maximum. And how did they come up with these numbers? Who knows? They just want a number. They come up with 10. That's more than 6, but less than 8 than 11. And how do you know it? And with Antifa dancing around, they wouldn't come here, I hope. But if you have a group of bad boys and girls that are attacking you, and you might miss, let's see, I can get 10 people if I don't miss any. And if you've seen the police are trained. They're trained under a lot of pressure so that they can hit the target. And that one guy that shot his boss in the Empire State Building. He came out on the street, the police surrounded him, told him to throw down his guns, and he, no, I don't want to throw the gun down, I'll put it down, and at any rate, the shooting started. And like 25 or 30 rounds were fired by the police. They hit him one time, they hit a number of people. Remember, they surrounded him. Ah, you see the point of this. There were some police officers injured. Fortunately, nobody died in that. And they took him to the hospital and such, and I don't know what happened afterwards, but policemen, they're trained. But when you get under a lot of pressure, you start to shoot not quite as well. And a magazine with more shots in it would be nice. That gives me more chances to miss my bad person target. And maybe I'll get lucky. Okay, some of the other things we have, they want to add to the price of your gun. Tax them. You want to buy a gun? Certainly. There's a $200, $500 tax on each gun you want to buy. You want to buy some ammo? $1 a round tax. That's in California, I believe it is, right now. So you buy a box of 22s, you pay, say, $10 for the box, and then you pay a $50 tax. Sounds fair. They want fees. The 127 law that they're looking at wants a few small fees. I'll go into it in a minute, but one fee is every year $800. Minor. How many guns you got? Lots. And then a favorite, the gun buyback plan. How many people own a gun that belonged to the government and you bought it from the government? We have one. I have two guns that one of them was made in 1873 and the other one's a little newer. Is the government going to come buy back? And right now, long guns are selling for about $1,000. Pistols are $500 and up. And the government is going to buy them back from you. Well, that's darn generous. In Australia, for a long gun, the amount they would pay ranged from less than $50 to up to $125. And if you go out and find a gun today for $125, it's either been stolen from someone, or maybe it was one that got run over by a semi-trailer, and then they left it in a mud puddle for a few months, and now you can buy it. Not very good. Quite the deal. Ghost guns, that's another big thing. Sounds spooky. And what's a ghost gun? Well, that's a gun that you make as a human being. You want to make a gun? I've been trained as a gunsmith. I can make a ghost gun. I haven't had the desire to do it, but what's wrong with it? Well, it doesn't have an official serial number. I have a bunch of guns that don't have serial numbers. They were all made in previous centuries, but they didn't used to require guns to have serial numbers on them. So we have the stabilizer brace. Oh my dear God, there's another one, death on wheels. Stabilizer brace. It clamps on your arm here, comes up, and attaches to the back of the pistol so you can't wiggle it makes it easier for you to aim it. Now, at the same time, is this pistol going to be, it's more accurate if you're going out to shoot targets and stuff that don't shoot back. If you're going to shoot at people who might shoot back, this isn't the best deal. But they have to be, they're evil, evil. Why? Because the government doesn't like them. We have some people like our dear friend Nancy Pelosi, everyone's friend, and Tlaib and Ox. Is that her name? AOC. Yep, Ox. Is she a German? Yeah. Is she smart? Ox. Oh, I'm getting off the subject. I'll get back on. Red flag laws. Oh, joy. Red flag laws. How to get rid of your rights. All you need is one person to say, you have threatened or done something to hurt people, that you might do it. You're thinking of it. And police come, they collect you, they collect your guns. Do they have a warrant for your arrest? No, it's not necessary, no warrant. Because you've just been accused by someone. And now they'll come, they'll take your guns, and you have to prove you're innocent of the charge that they've levied against you. And if you prove that you're innocent of it, then you can start working on getting your gun back. Because the courts so far have looked at this and said, well, he was accused under the red flag. He's dangerous. So we really don't want him to have guns. And you have to go through the court system, and you know, it's a minor thing. Lawyers come real inexpensively, apparently. And the assault weapons, you know what none of us have them, but they look at, someone painted this gun black. Ding, warning, it's deadly. Someone has a gun that has a place that you could mount a bayonet. Well, if someone's got a gun, I'm more afraid of the gun than the bayonet. But it's got a bayonet holder. Oh, they could put a bayonet on it. It has a pistol grip. Oh, there's death down it, now it's gonna kill. This is the stuff that we're going up against. You have people that don't know the diddly crap about guns, and they think this is, you know, for instance, have you seen the one thing where the guy holds up the ammunition for an AR-15, and he's holding that up, a loaded round. They're all of this big, you know, and they're about a little touch bigger than a pencil in diameter, except the bullet's at 22. And they say, this is what you're all afraid of. Oh. Some of them, the one guy saw, he picks up a 50 caliber machine gun round and said, is this the round you're afraid of out of your ARs? Yeah. He said, well, it won't fit in an AR. You know, doesn't fit it at all. And he went through a number of different rounds, and at last he ends up with the last one is the one that actually takes. And to them, it, you know, oh, well, that does that mean the AR is not deadly? Oh, it's very dangerous. But what are guns meant to do? They're meant to punch holes in things. And a gun doesn't care if you're shooting at your floor, at your toe, at the ceiling, at a target. It makes no difference because a gun has no brains. But some of the Democrats know. Guns are thinking, and by how they look, if they look scary, they are scary. Just like I carry a pocket knife. This one. And this knife, when it's folded like this, doesn't look too bad, but this has a scary looking blade. Now, why would I want a scary looking blade? Because my knife fighting skills basically consist of, but if I show them this blade, someone sees this thing, it looks pretty darn scary. And I kind of figure that people would not want to mess with me at that point. So, does it work? I guess scary works. You mentioned gun buybacks. Oh, no wonder I'm looking at the same page. I'll turn the page and get back up here. Now get into some of the bills. And we have the good, the bad, and the ugly in bills. Starting with the ugly. In fact, the ugliest bill. House of Representatives Bill 127. And it's only 19 pages when I printed the thing out. And 127, licensing and registration of firearms and ammo. And it sets up the requirements to have a gun. You have to have what in Illinois they call a FOID card, Firearm Owner's Identification. And this is a card that says it's legal for you to buy a gun. If you have permission from the Attorney General. which is in there. And if you want to buy ammo, again, you have to have your special card. How do you get the card? Well, you don't just go out and say, I need one. You first of all go to your psychiatrist, but it has to be one approved by the government, and the psychiatrist will give you a psychological exam and decide whether you're safe and not some loony. Then they may include an exam for your family, because perhaps he seems fairly normal, but maybe his family drove him crazy. Or maybe they'll go out, in the thing it says, they can go at least 2 more people of extended family members and or associates. So people that you're around with could be brought in for a psychological exam to see if they're normal and have made you normal or whatever. And don't worry, the government doesn't pay those doctors, but you can. And I'm sure a psychiatrist will be very inexpensive as they go through the test that the Attorney General gives them to give you. We also have, remember this comes up again, it's not a one-time exam. Every time you need your license renewed, which is 1 to 5 years, does that mean 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, a 5th year? So you'd have 5 inspections, or they haven't figured that out, but it'll be the most expensive one because that's what this whole bill is, getting the prices up. So you're priced out of getting a gun. Criminals won't be, they'll be stealing them from whoever they need them from. Next you have to have firearms insurance. And you can buy it from anyone you want as long as it's the United States government. And this, in 127, the fee is only $800 every year for your insurance. Inexpensive. They want to put taxes on the guns, like $200 when you buy a gun. Pay an extra $200 for the federal tax on it. You want to buy ammunition? They haven't come up with the amount, but they will be putting a federal tax on it. And would this pass? Well, yeah. If you want to borrow a gun, like my grandson comes up here, I want to loan him one of my guns. Well, that's no problem at all. All you have to do is tell the Attorney General of the United States, I'm loaning my grandson a gun. And I send him a letter saying I'm going to loan it to him for 2 days and 15 minutes, along with X rounds of ammunition, and that's the way it's going to work out. And if you violate these, there are, usually you hear about violations, that's a 10-year, $10,000, or 5 years, $5,000. In this one, it's 5 to 40 years, and $5 to $150,000. Ought to be a good moneymaker for the government. There's some good gun news. By the way, there's several other bills. There's one that's real popular, that to rewrite our NICS checks. When you buy a gun, you have to have at the gun show. Okay. Oh, wait, there's a gun show loophole. Yeah, the loophole is that there's dealers there, and the dealers have their FFL, and they require you to do this. But Democrats know, nah, not that way. You go in and people say, hey, I got an illegal gun, you want to buy it cheap? It's just, craziness. But they do have a couple of ideas on the changing it over. One, instead of 3 days, right now, you go in and you get your NICS check. If it isn't back within 3 days, that's 3 business days, then they can transfer it to you. Because if the FBI can't tell whether you're a good or bad person in 3 days, but Democrats know that's a problem, they want to increase it just a little bit to 25 to 30 days. And if they don't have it quite done, they can put another month on it. So for 1 to 2 months, they can keep, you want to buy the gun? Come back in a couple of months, we'll see if you can get it then. There is some good news here in the state of Michigan. House Bill number 4003 says changes on your concealed carry. If you're a concealed carry person right now, if you forget to renew and you get stopped by Officer Friendly, and Officer Friendly says you're carrying a gun, you have a permit, and you pull it out, and the officer says it's expired. Oh, that seems to be a problem. And it will be a problem, because under the way the law is right now, you are guilty of a felony. Felony, 1 year in jail or more, and you're no longer allowed, you lose your right to own a gun or ammunition. Now, if you're a criminal, that doesn't make any difference, because it doesn't seem to bother them. They get caught time after time, but it might bother you. Plus, there's a $2,500 fine available. Under the new version of it, they're going to say, if you get caught, it'll be a misdemeanor and a $330 fine. But if you get your license renewed before the year is out, all is forgiven. You don't have to pay the fine, and you don't have to, go to jail for the rest of your life. Just, they'll forget about it. So a big improvement, because people that forget to renew this, I'm sure some of the people in here have looked at your driver's license and said, oh my God, it's out. And same thing happens. I've had friends that discovered that we were talking about having your concealed carry permit, and you look at it and they go, mine went out last month or longer, and they rush and get them renewed. If this new one, big improvement. Another one, bill is House Resolution number 55, and I put it back by Bob so he could read it there. And this is a great one for the state of Michigan. It says that the House will not enforce any federal law that violates the Second Amendment. So that's a great one. And this includes older ones that have been around. For instance, that 1934 Federal Firearms Act. That could turn into one that's not enforced in the state of Michigan. And the original intent of the Second Amendment was you had the right to own any weapon that the government had. And if you'd like a hydrogen bomb, they're not that expensive. They're only a few $1 million a piece. And you can get small ones, and probably get those for just a few $100,000. And if you use it, you probably won't be around to use it a second time, so take care of itself. But it's a great resolution. It makes things a lot back to what it used to be. Because this stuff that we can't own guns, you have to, hello, Mr. Government, can I buy a gun? That's not the way the Second Amendment was written. You had the right to get it. You didn't have to ask permission. And, another thing, the Democrats want to make it so minimum age to buy a gun, 21. Right now, younger people can buy guns. I don't know about you, but I bought my first rifle when I was about 13, I believe. Paid my own money. I got $25 in my hot little hand, and I bought a nice used .22. And didn't shoot anyone at school. We had people that came to school. During hunting season, you were allowed to bring your guns to school. Provision number 1, it had to be unloaded. Number 2, you had to take it down and put it in the office. And I remember going down in the office and looking at all the guns that were lined up in there. Did they have chains and locks? And no. And how many of them were used to shoot other students? None. How many of them were used to shoot people just out in the community? None. I remember the big deal down, I was an Indiana resident as a kid, and a boy in Plainfield, Indiana, shot one of his friends with a .22 a bunch of times because the gun kept going off, except it was a single shot rifle. And they determined he was slightly crazy, and it was unfortunate. This brings us down to the end of this part here. What can you do to help? Everyone in here has the power to do something. Now, some people like me, I've gone into the NRA, I've become a volunteer in the NRA, a highly unpaid volunteer. And I am the speaker, I am a recruiter, and top of them all, I'm a frontline activist leader, or the FAL, unless you pronounce F-A-L, fall, or fool. But yeah, I'm the guy that volunteers for everything, and so I'm top of the volunteer heap. If I get any higher, they have to start paying me, so I've got to the height of my incompetence, I guess. But contact people. Contact your friends. When you see, this is stupid, email your friends and tell them, have you seen this gun law? It is stupid. You should, and tell them what they should do. Everyone can do it. I'm sure some of you, how many people in here have never contacted any federal official or any state official? Anyone that's never done it? Some people have done it rarely. Some people will sit there and say, I'm not going to admit I don't do it. Because he'll look at me, yeah, oh, I'll give you a real stare. But try and get people to take action. And I was just talking to Bob and others about trying to get people to volunteer and do something. It's difficult. But you have friends that you can influence. Ask them to call their legislature. Doesn't cost anything. Free phone call. Send an email. These are things that will work real well. Send them a letter. When I make an email, I make a copy of it, put it in an envelope, and I mail it to them. I email them the same thing because they don't check. Let's see now, we got Greg Berg sent us, oh, he tried to fool us. He sent us the same thing again. They don't do that. They just look at how many people said, yes, I like it, or no, I hate it. And so you can get extra bang for your buck that way. Make sure you, when you encounter others, encourage them to bother their legislature. And we got to get these guys in line. I mean, I've been looking at, when I was looking through all this stuff, I'm looking for Jack O'Malley's name, that he supported this or that bill. And you know what? He talks a lot about being pro-gun, and I believe he is, but is he stepping up and doing the right thing here? Well, I'm waiting for him to pop into town so I can ask him. And I know when last time I was in contact with our federal senator, the general, I asked him, why aren't you supporting this? Well, I support it. I said, I don't see your name on the list of people that are supporting it. Oh, and about 2 days later, I got an email and a copy of it, and there's his name. I mean, they'll respond to you. They're only humanoids too, and they're supposedly work for us. Letters to the editor, if you write, I mean, our local paper, I find, for a while they would put my letters in, and that was fine. Now I send them a letter, and you know, I might as well, I could throw it away just as efficiently as they do sometimes, but it's the only way to get stuff done. Join one of the pro-gun groups. There's a lot of them. I'm a member of several. And why am I a member of more than one? I mean, the NRA is a good organization. I'm sure some of you have heard all the stuff. Again, our media helps us ever so much. Not that the media ever lies, but Trump made them do it. You know that the media is in the Democrat camp very strongly, that they don't report stuff that we would like to see reported, But oh my, if they can report whatever the Democrats once said, it's unfortunate that our country has come to that level. By the way, over here on the table, there's a bunch of NRA stuff. It's all priced very reasonably and free. And there's different forms, explanations of what's wrong with bump stocks. What is the deal about different types of guns that they're trying to outlaw? Why should we have this and that? There's a series of things. You can take a look at them and decide if you're interested in them. Also, there's a bunch of cool bumper stickers, and the NRA has at last come up with some. So many of the NRA things came through as being, if you'd just be so kind, and some of them have come out a little bit stronger now. I'll have to read it in a low timbre voice. Battle tested, NRA. Picture of an AR. Come and take it. And a favorite from our own very own revolution. Don't tread on my gun rights, with a little snake coiled up on it here. Then we have the more sedate one. And truth about background checks, what about assault weapons and magazines? Protection of lawful commerce in the Firearms Act. That lawful commerce, one of the things that the Democrats are doing right now, we want to be able to sue the gun companies. If you take your Colt pistol made in 1873 and shoot someone, it's Colt's fault. Sue them. And the Commerce Act says you can't sue Colt for something they didn't do. You used it illegally. But Democrats got to get rid of that one. And waiting periods, how long do you wait? A few days, few months, few years? That's what's going on. And if there's any questions. Yes?
Why do they call the AR-15 an assault weapon?
Why did they call it that? Well, number one, ignorance. And
I agree.
the AR, a lot of people say, AR, automatic rifle. Ding dong. It's not an automatic rifle. It's a semi-automatic. You pull the trigger, it goes bang. You keep that trigger back. You release the trigger, it goes click. Now you can pull it again and it goes bang again. That's semi-auto. The military, they have full auto. You pull the trigger and it goes bang until you either let off or it goes bang, empty. Darn.
Out of ammo.
The AR, though, stands for Armalite Rifle. Armalite's the company that designed it. And why do they call it an assault rifle? Because that sounds deadly. Assault rifles are military weapons. If you get an M16, which if you put the two of them together, they look just the same, except this one, the AR, shoots one shot at a time. The M16, pull the trigger, and it goes repeatedly, bang, bang. Or you can even get a neater trigger that goes, brah, brah. Each time you pull the trigger, 3 shots, and it stops. And either one of them, though, they're similar, but just like my Ford pickup looks similar to the ones that they use on the racetrack. Except when I thunder up my truck, I put the hammer to the pedal, then we're roaring down the road in 50, 60, 70, at 105. Mine stops running. Why? Because Ford knows that the tires that are on it aren't good enough for the racetrack. So at 105 miles an hour, you lose power. And slow down a little bit, and then you can accelerate up to 100. And if you've taken a Ford pickup up to 105 miles an hour, you know that's damn fast. Now, when I was a kid, It wouldn't have been fast enough. But today, I find 80 really is pushing things. And such. But this, having the rifles and having different parts of it, oh, it's got a grip on it. Oh my gosh. If you were shot with a gun without a grip, it wouldn't hurt. But having that grip on it, kill you. If you were shot with a gun with a 10-round magazine, it wouldn't hurt you. But having 12, 15, 20, 30 rounds magazine, that would kill you. That's the logic of our Democrat friends. Yes, question? Yes.
Oh, I did. Yes, sir. This is an assault phone, but I was under the impression that the Supreme Court of the United States all unanimously kicked out the red flag law. So, but it's a matter of retrieving whatever they have taken.
Well, they're saying they're throwing them out, but have you noticed that things that the law says this, but people in charge are doing something else? And as long as no one in government overrides them and says something, I mean, for instance, we've had an election in this country one year, and two people running for president that both claimed they won. And Trump, wasn't going to say that. One of the people got 179 million votes. The other person got 20 million more votes. But when you combine the number of both groups together, they say, there's how many people altogether voted. But when you look in the country, how many people could vote? Less. 20 million extra votes. Cleanest election I've ever seen. Honest. And here we are stuck with it. Yes.
Illinois, some of this. Until last week, there's been 1,200 shootings in Illinois. That's for this year.
Deadliest places to be, any of the big Democrat-controlled cities, that's where they have the highest rates of death by gunfire are shootings, because not all of them are, when they say that they got X number, that's not all dead. Fortunately, these people that are shooting aren't real good shots. I mean, that sounds silly, but you don't get killed if they just nick you.
Hey, Greg.
You mentioned a couple of either resolutions or bills that were in Lansing. Do those require the governor's signature after they're passed?
On the resolution 55, I don't think that they have to have her name on it. But on some of the other things, like that 4003 bill, bill number 4003, if they pass it, she has to sign it unless they get over 60% of the vote. If they get over 2/3 vote, then they say, they can override her. If she refuses to sign it, then it would come back and they'd vote again on it. And if they get 2/3 vote, it overrides her veto.
Nothing's going to override her veto. That won't happen in our state, unfortunately.
Well, the governor is having her own problems. I mean, she tells us, you slobs, you're not in the government. Ha! You're beneath my contempt. I can do stuff, you can't. Yeah. I always like the way I just want to say something nice. Notice that she's got this, I'd like to play poker against her. Because she has such a tell.
Hey Greg, how many guns are there in the U.S. according to the NRA?
Nobody knows the exact number, but there's more guns than there are people. And last year they sold over 8 million guns. This year they're selling them faster than last year. And people say, why can't I get ammunition? 8 million people bought guns, over 8 million bought guns last year. Though each of those people bought some ammunition for their gun. And so we're talking 8 million boxes. Boxes have 20 to 50 rounds of ammo in them. and you start doing the math, then, you know, there's some tremendous numbers. Ammunition manufacturers are making it as fast as they can, and they can't keep up with demand. Why not put on new lines? Two things. Number one, it's horrendously expensive to put in a new line in excess of $1 million. And number two, you don't just say, hello, I want to order 3 machines to make 22s, a couple of 9mm machines, and 30-06 machine. Can you have them here tomorrow? Each of those machines is custom made, and you're looking at 6 months to a year before they can get the machine made and to you. So, serious problem. Yes, sir?
Yeah, last I heard was the figure of 392 million guns are in the hands of the United States citizens, which is more than our population. Second thing is, I get a lot of NRA life, I get all kinds of mailings that write to our 2 senators, and we know their position. My question is, are they thinking, is there a possibility that we go ahead and sign the petition and mail it in? Oh, Rich Nelson's got guns. Put his name on the list if we have to go after people with guns. And I'm wondering if that's a concern of the NRA or what, because, you know, we're playing with our tinkle when we write to those 2 people because they're not going to change their mind.
Well, I know. The last time I talked to Debbie Stavinoff, she got mad at me and wouldn't talk to me anymore because she gave her favorite thing about guns. And she said, my parents and my family had guns. We are blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, both of my parents taught at the university level, and they're both violinists. I can't play the violin myself. And she goes, I don't know why. Maybe she had gas or something. But then I held up my hand to ask another question, and she just ignored me. And I was very hurt. Yeah, terrible. Yes?
I wrote Debbie a month ago, and I told her what my views were on these bills. And today, I got a letter back from her. And she says, thank you. She's always had guns in her family and so forth. And she realizes the state situation, and she'll keep my views in mind. You know,
I'll certainly consider what you said.
but this is the first time she's answered a letter of mine about the subject. I've written her before on lots of topics. Sometimes 3 months I get a letter back. Didn't pertain to anything I asked. Her staff is, I'll send them this one.
I'd like to catch her again and ask her, Debbie, are you a kind of a socialist Democrat? And she'd probably say yes. Oh, in other words, you're a Nazi. What do you mean? I've done this to people, and they always, what do you mean? I said, well, Socialist Democrats, that's Nazi is the Socialist Democrat Party of Germany. And the abbreviation in German of Socialist Democrat is NAZI. And they, well, most of the time people have a cell phone. Well, tap it in on your phone, and they walk away. I don't know. Maybe they found out I was right or wrong or something.
What about controlling the ammo? You know, that's another way of controlling the guns, because I could use a few, 300-400 rounds of 30-06 ammo myself.
Well, right now, there's no control on it other than the laws of economics. Because right now, you find ammo, if you're shooting a 30-96 Quackenbush Schnauzer rifle,
You can find it.
and if you go into a place, you might find that ammo because nobody else in the country's got one. So that's the only one there'd be ammo available. But if you're shooting very popular ammo, 22s, 38, 9mm, The military, any ex-military round is basically very popular with civilians. 380s are very popular for a defense gun. People are buying those guns. They want more, they want the ammo. And when you have millions of people buying boxes of ammo, if those 8 million people last year bought one box of 22s, 22 times 8 million comes out to a fair size number. And that's one little box of 22s. And that comes out to, what, 800 million rounds, nearly 1 billion. And in the country, how many billion rounds that are made in a year? Not that many. So we're selling faster than they're making. Yes, and then we'll get to you.
Okay, the environmentalists admitted so we can't mine lead in the U.S. anymore. The environmentalists have made it so we can't mine lead in the U.S. anymore. And I read a few years ago that the manufacturers thought that they had enough recycled lead coming in to meet needs. I was wondering how it's going these days.
So far, there's still lead around, and lead is infinitely recyclable. If you go out to the range and dig around in where the bullets impact, you can find bullets that have been shot, and if you get a handful of them, you can melt them down, and they're still usable. In colonial days, people would use their gun, they'd shoot whatever they were going to shoot, and if you hit a tree, you dig out the lead, because the lead was hard to come by. Today, in places like Flint, where they're pulling out all the old lead pipes, oh, those deadly lead pipes. Those lead pipes have been in the ground for how many years? Most places, they've been in the ground for 75 plus years, and it wasn't until they started running acid water through the lines that they had a problem. And it would eat into the lead line, into the pipe's lining, and the lead would mix with it, and you had that disaster. In most towns, and there's a town in this neighborhood called Manistee, that if you remember back about 10, 15 years ago, they started adding a phosphate to the water, mixing it in. And why did they do that? Because that puts a lead phosphate lining in your lead lines, and you don't get lead poisoning because it's not soluble in water. So it makes it safe. Yes? Oh wait, I had another person over here. I'm sorry, I'll get you next.
I'm just curious on how it's going to work if Representative Steve Johnson's bill for constitution carry goes through. How is that going to supersede?
I'm going to have to ask you to speak louder.
Oh, I can't.
I'm deaf.
You can't hear me?
I can't hear you.
Really? So I was told I got a big mouth. Steve Johnson just put a constitutional carry bill in. Is that going to supersede any bills that are coming or currently in, going through the House? And right now, the 3 that you spoke of.
A minute ago, there were 2 squirrels out here.